Hello everyone and welcome back to the Common Sense Crypto channel. As with you always, this is Rich doing another video today on XRP. So I hope you're all having a wonderful day today wherever you are in this great world. We're going to talk about XRP. I'm going to start with this. Today is a key date. Ripple and SEC lawsuit now closer to settlement. Settlement amount remains the biggest contention in the suit. So there's a lot of hype around this right now. People are saying the case is going to end today. But whenever they put a date on things, I always expect nothing to happen. Everything seems to happen when we least expect it, is what I'm saying. However, the judge may say something very bullish for XRP, and that could start to send the price as well. We'll have to wait and see how it all plays out. The blockchain experts of Forbes released a good-for-nothing blockchain list, putting the XRP ledger on it with Trust Me Bro sources, mid-curve comments, and as per usual, random picking. And they also called XRP a zombie cryptocurrency as well. But what does Forbes know? Well, look at how good they are at predicting the future. Look at who made the cover of Forbes. And you know, I look at it like this. We all know what XRP is built to do. Move the world's money. I take anything that Forbes says with a grain of salt. To me, it doesn't even matter what Forbes says. All these news outlets all of a sudden, they write up these articles and they always use an expert, prominent analyst, whatever, all kinds of words to describe retail investors that are influencing these articles. And a lot of times it's some Bitcoin maxi or Ethereum maxi. And you know, it doesn't matter what Forbes says. It matters what the IMF and the BIS and everybody else has to say. All the banks in the world. And all the partners of Ripple, what they say matters to me. Uncle David quote Charles big time. So Charles Hoskinson is at it again. David Schwartz says, what does it even mean to separate the two things? It's reasonable to think his interest in Ethereum affected the Ethereum free pass, but not reasonable to think it affected the Ripple litigation. How is the evidence for one stronger than the other? You know, Charles Hoskinson, if he just didn't talk, I would probably still be holding ADA. The ADA is a great cryptocurrency. I just can't get over the leadership there. Charles just made me want to sell my ADA a long time ago, and I never looked back. But that's just my opinion. And now he's at it again. XRP is designed to be effectively a global reserve currency, according to Brad Garlinghouse. So a lot of people think that XRP is going to be the world's reserve currency. I think it's going to be the world's bridge currency. I think we're going to have a period of time where there's no world's reserve currency also, once the US dollar falls. Everybody right now wants their own currency. Every country, they're all pulling away from the US dollar, the world's reserve currency that's in place right now, because they all want a level playing field. However, if you look at this the other way, XRP also can give a level playing field because it's a neutral currency. It's not owned by any one country, so that could make sense. My thinking, though, is that something else will evolve before that happens. I think maybe Ripple's new stablecoin could also be looked at a neutral world's reserve currency as well. Because what is a CBDC? It's nothing more than a government stablecoin. We'll have to wait and see. We have to give it more time to see the direction we go in. But I do believe they're rushing to the bottom on the US dollar. When your own government is pushing for the US dollar to fall, you gotta pay attention, because that's what's going on right now. How can you have the amount of debt the US has and you still cannot stop spending money at the same time? If launched tomorrow, a US CBDC would already be compatible with existing UCC codes. Yikes. Meaning a CBDC is potentially already in place and could easily be widely deemed compliant and acceptable. I think they already have a CBDC in place. I think all they're waiting for is the perfect time to push it live, to make it go live in the United States. And I think it's going to happen before the next election. I think that's what they're pushing for. Even now with the stablecoin bill, that pushes us in that direction. Remember, a CBDC is nothing more than a stablecoin issued by the government. And I think this has been put in place for a while now. And people will argue with you, though. Anybody you talk to, even outside of crypto, and some people inside of crypto, will always argue that the US is not going to have a CBDC. We are absolutely going to, because we're not going to sit back and let the rest of the world push ahead with digital money and we're going to be left behind. It doesn't make sense. This comes from Smoke. First sentence. First wave of crypto driven by retail. Next wave of crypto driven by institutions and regulations. Banks have been exploring use cases in crypto for years. Mika equals stablecoin as an infrastructure project. High level. You know, everybody always thinks that retail is going to drive the price of this crypto or that crypto. What's really going to drive the price is the institutional investors. That's when the real money comes into crypto. But I don't think we'll get the real money until we have regulations. And I think we will have regulations this year as well. Everything is coming together for mass adoption of crypto. The expansion of the SDR, crypto assets used in cross-border improvements, direct response to inefficiencies of the traditional financial system. SDR needs to be completely overhauled to meet global demand. Central banks are openly discussing plans for crypto-owned ledgers. One thing I want to point out in this is right here. We are now experiencing a crypto renaissance as blockchain potential is being fully realized around the world. Central banks and commercial banks are openly talking about developing their own ledgers and crypto assets. Think about that for a second. It means that there will soon be a crypto version of the US dollar on its own Federal Reserve ledger. That's what's coming. And that actually makes sense going forward. When it comes to ESDRs, that also makes sense. And I think the reason that they're changing the rules on this is because an SDR is great, but you have to make improvements so it can be widely adopted all around the world at the same time. And now that we're able to hold an ESDR, that's game changing for any investor, because XRP would become an ESDR, high valued cryptocurrency. The BIS, IMF, and FSB have been working together to develop an alternative to the US dollar as the primary reserve asset in the global monetary system. The alternative to USD would be a super sovereign asset not anchored to one nation, with enough liquidity for the full globe. Where does the value come from for XRP? In its liquidity. That's how we get to that $10,000 XRP. And that makes sense as well. Everybody wants their own sovereign currency, and they don't want to be controlled by one country's world reserve currency, like what's going on right now. That's why the countries are breaking away from the US dollar. I say it all the time, because the US cannot stop sanctioning these countries. threatening these countries all the time with the US dollar, and they had enough. They're done with that. We are moving into the digital age. We're moving into a level playing field. We're moving into a time where XRP holders get rich. That's what we're moving into. This week is going to be absolutely wild. The Fed will react for the first time to rising PCE, PPI, and CPI inflation data. This includes Fed Chair Powell's question and answer after the first 2 months increase in inflation since September 2023. Meanwhile, over 20% of the S&P 500 will be reporting earnings, including Apple. All before we get the April jobs report on Friday and geopolitical tensions continue. Just about every major headwind is converging this week. What are your predictions? Buckle up. I'm going to wait and see how this all plays out. This could play out very well for crypto, or it could play out very bad for crypto. When it comes to inflation, that's not going to change. You know, no matter how much they try to spin it on the mainstream media news, we are not going back on inflation anytime soon. It's not going down. It continues to rise and will continue to rise because the US dollar is dying in slow motion, and our government is pushing for that to happen. I'm going to do 2 Great Reset videos for tomorrow. One of them is going to be about the Great Reset and real world events that are happening right now in real time. The other part is going to be about the Great Reset and how crypto is moving ahead with the Great Reset in real time as well. And I'm going to address some other issues that I see going on around the world that shows you the Great Reset is already happening. JP Morgan Chase and Bank of America suffer $4.5 billion in losses as unrecoverable debt soars. Again, there's problems at the banks, and those problems are going to continue as well because they have to consolidate the banks. We're going to watch that happen in real time all throughout the rest of 2024. Total fraud penalties for banks since 2000. You know, I don't look at these as penalties. What I look at this as pay to play. These banks are still making a hell of a lot of money. The penalties that they're paying is nothing compared to what they're raking in. And we know about all the fraud that goes on with the banks, but yet only crypto is used for criminals. You know, there's more criminal activity that happens with the US dollar. It's the same reason that they don't care about the US dollar ending. Think about it. They can't track paper money. They don't see a future for paper money, but they do see a future for digital money that they can still control. UCLA professor warns young people opting out of America as inflation destroys their wealth. People are opting out of America. They're not having kids. The pool of emotionally and economically viable men shrinks every day. We have a real issue. Their purchasing power is going down, and they are really struggling. You know, when the youth starts to leave the country, again, you got to pay attention to this. And we know a lot of people in crypto are leaving the country all the time to avoid capital gains here in the US. But, you know, we're watching people flee the major cities, and then they flee the major city, but they still run into the problem that's happening by, you know, because the government, it makes it happen, which is inflation and people losing their homes and the rising rent and the rising mortgages. So eventually they move from a city to a different area thinking it's going to be better, but they run into the same problem. That's when they decide, okay, we got to get out of the country. The youth is starting to figure it out. The younger generation is fleeing. And I see that even on the mainstream media news. They talked about that multiple times in the past. It's simple. Let the poor starve and go into recession, then buy up their assets for pennies on the dollar. Rinse and repeat. The World Economic Forum president, we haven't seen this kind of debt since the Napoleonic Wars. You know, the World Economic Forum is happy that we see all this debt in the United States and in other countries as well, because they need the current system to fall apart so they can bring on the new system, the CBDC system, the new financial system, the digital financial system. That's what they're actually pushing for. Everything you see happening around you is happening by design. BlackRock's Bitcoin ETF experienced 3 consecutive days without any new investments. I want to see how that ETF news hits the market today. I want to see how that plays out, and we'll know how it's going to play out over the course of the day. By the time this video goes live, we will already see how that news around ETFs is affecting Bitcoin and the market as well. But you know, we're XRP investors. We're just waiting for XRP to take off, and it is definitely coming. But until it happens, stay patient, stay positive, and let's get rich together. With that said, I'm going to wrap up this video. I want to thank you all for watching. I appreciate all of you. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night. Oh, and by the way, I know I made some mistakes in this video. It's 11 o'clock at night and I'm still recording. But that's no excuse. I should be making mistakes. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great night.